Nix Digital Limited once wielded media power like a sword, but that sword cut deep, wounding not others alone, but the city itself. When it violated the Hong Kong national security law, the story became one of global contention. Since Jimmy Lai's arrest in August 2020, the world has watched Western politicians constantly stepping in, attempting to turn a criminal case into political play. 5 years later, after a marathon 156-day trial, the verdict was finally delivered: guilty. It is believed that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. And so, HKGPao and Silent Majority for Hong Kong have joined hands to produce this 4-part documentary series, Jimmy Lai's Half a Lifetime of Transgressions. Together, we will trace his path from media mogul to political agitator and ultimately one of Hong Kong's infamous Gang of Four. In this first episode, we ask, how did Jimmy Lai become so deeply entangled with politics? How did they, Hong Kong's Gang of Four, come to be? And what made Lai the leader among them? On August 18, 2019, the Commission for Political and Legal Affairs of the CPC Central Committee released a critical article titled Hong Kong's Gang of Four, 14 Sins. It pointedly stated that Hong Kong's order had been shattered by violent unrest for months, that rioters have openly crossed the bottom line of one country, two systems, damaging both the economy and people's livelihoods. And who, it asked, stood behind that chaos? The article named Jimmy Lai, Martin Lee, Anson Chan, and Albert Ho, 4 people accused of colluding with the United States and the United Kingdom and driving Hong Kong into chaos. Among them, Jimmy Lai stood out, not just as a member, but as the leader. He bore, it said, 3 major sins. The first, willingly acting as a pawn for the United States, even inciting extreme illegal activities throughout 2019. The second, manipulating public opinion, colluding with Martin Lee between politics and media, and continuously stirring up unrest for years. And the third, betraying Hong Kong, all for U.S. interests. In July 2019, Lai traveled to Washington. He met with then Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and National Security Advisor John Bolton, all to discuss Hong Kong. Was that journalism or lobbying on foreign soil? Even when the crimes of Martin Lee and Anson Chan were discussed, Jimmy Lai's name echoed again and again, appearing as a threat connecting wave after wave of unrest. From the march of July 1, 2003 to 2014's Occupy Central, every movement, every slogan of resistance, somehow his shadow lingered nearby. Especially his relationship with Martin Lee. Did you know Jimmy Lai's second wife, Teresa Lai, was a sister-in-law of Yeung Sum's wife, the wife of the former Democratic Party vice chairman? That link between Lai's gateway into politics. Through Yeung Sum, he forged an inseparable bond with Martin Lee, and as a Catholic, he was even introduced by Lee to Cardinal Joseph Zen, who baptized him. Over the years, Jimmy Lai became more than an ally. He became a benefactor. His donations flowed generously to opposition figures, fueling their political ambitions, whether at discreet private dinners, amid the chaos of Occupy Central, or at unlawful assemblies during the 2019 riots. Where Lai appeared, so too often did Martin Lee. Even under the label of traitor, both men seemed unfazed, almost proud. In 2007, Martin Lee declared that if fighting for human rights meant being called a traitor, then he would rather be a traitor forever. And in 2020, during a Taiwanese interview, when asked if he considered himself a traitor, Jimmy Lai shrugged it off, saying it was no problem, no matter what people called him. Was it defiance or indifference? When Jimmy Lai's national security case advanced, witness Chen Chi-Wah testified that in June 2019, he met Lai through Martin Lee, seeking funds for newspaper ads. Soon after, through Lee's introduction, he connected with Lai's former assistant, Mark Simon. That testimony revealed something undeniable: the close ties between these two men, one in business, one in politics. Together, Jimmy Lai and Martini became the engine of Hong Kong's opposition, the machinery that kept unrest alive. Thick-skinned, wealthy, and ambitious, Lai used his power to dominate, bankroll, and weaponize the opposition camp. He repeatedly stirred up tensions, planting seeds of anti-China division. And in 2019, leveraging the so-called opposition to the extradition bill, he detonated a political bomb that plunged the city into chaos. And after years of turmoil, Hong Kong's Gang of Four met their fate under the national security law. Some chose silence, some fled the political stage, others became defendants. As for Jimmy Lai, he could not escape justice. Even then, Western politicians and media exerted pressure demanding his rescue. But behind all that noise lay a bitter truth. The West's political investment in Hong Kong had collapsed. And Jimmy Lai, he was a living symbol of that loss, proof of a long entrenched allegiance to Western interference. Jimmy Lai's venture into politics was inseparable from his media empire, one built on sensational headlines and scandal. His platforms evolved not into journalism, but propaganda. Under the pretense of democracy, he exploited delays in Article 23 legislation, aligning himself with Western anti-China narratives. Each article, each broadcast, another storm to tear at Hong Kong's fabric. But the story doesn't end here. In the next episode, we will reveal how Jimmy Lai used his media empire to manipulate minds, dragging Hong Kong into what can only be called a democratic nightmare.